Hello, everybody. Welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Such.
My name is James.
We are through 10 games of Game Week 25, James. One to go on Wednesday, Aston Villa versus Liverpool. Yeah, how's your week? Are you feeling good? We got another fixture announcement right before deadline. I think that I love it. I think the Premier League are trolling us. I think they should do it every week.
Absolute carnage. I love it.
I think they should do it every week.
Yeah, that moved a few people. I feel a little bit sorry for those who activated the assistant manager sort of like Friday afternoon, and then the Newcastle Palace announcement came, and they went, "They might have wanted to save that." Yeah, I suppose we should probably start there, shouldn't we? Might as well just get straight into that. So,
Yeah, we can
um,
do. Let's talk about that, and then we can get into our teams and how we've got on as well, and all the usual stuff. You did put a people's poll vote out early, James, because we wanted to make sure we covered something off in more detail, and people wanted to cover off game week 29 versus game week 34 free hits. So we will do that in a bit more detail tomorrow. One of the options on people's poll was this game week 32 announcement. You had mentioned that you thought that they could chuck in Newcastle Palace anywhere because of the other lack of other commitments that the clubs had. It's on a Champions League night, which some people might be surprised by, but it's not televised, is it? From my understanding, that game, Newcastle Palace.
no, I don't think it is. So,
No, so it kind of doesn't make a big difference.
no, and I think it would have been the same if that had gone 33. And I'd mentioned more about Newcastle Ipswich maybe going into say 35
Mm,
because of the problem of 36. I think for those who haven't seen it, obviously Newcastle Crystal Palace is confirmed for game week 32. They will almost certainly be the only two teams that double in that game week. It raises the potential prospect for both Newcastle and Palace to have back-to-back double game weeks. And there's an awkwardness about game week 32 in the sense I know a lot of people are possibly going to wildcard there and prep for bench boost. One interesting aspect is if neither Newcastle or Palace or Ipswich make the FA Cup semi-finals, and then those two teams are doubling in 32 and then don't double in 33, that's making your bench boost really, really awkward.
yep.
Because you're not going to just want to ignore Newcastle Palace with the doubles. And then Newcastle becomes what? A single fixture away to Villa, and Crystal Palace would be single fixture at home to Bournemouth. Like, that's not great if you're then with those players looking to bench boost in 33. And that's one of the things I really wanted to dive into if that was covered on the People's Poll. We will dive into that in more detail, no doubt, over the next couple of weeks, particularly after the FA Cup fifth round. We'll obviously revisit again. It adds the prospect, obviously, now with 5 fixtures. That's an almost certainty for those who want to use the AssMan between, say, 31 and 33. It's a little bit like we discussed last Monday. So it feels like every chip is kind of best for 33.
Yeah, at the
You
moment,
can't
this is the
use them
problem,
all
right?
at the same point.
I did, I know I messaged you and I was thinking, okay, well, I could do 31 to 33 Eddie Howe, or at least get to Eddie Howe for 32 and 33 if I have someone else for 31, and then use my bench boost in 36. But you're predicting no, as a result, you're predicting no doubles in 36. So it's not even like people can move their bench boost from 33 to 36. I don't know if I agree with you, but I actually have no science or data based on what I'm basing my no doubles in 36.
The,
But
the,
things just never play out how we think they're going to play out, I guess.
the fact that they've put Newcastle Palace into 32 must make you think that the intention is to move Arsenal v Palace or Newcastle v Ipswich, if postponed from 34, forward to that midweek in 33. Otherwise, why not just put it in 33?
Yeah. Unless 33, well, I suppose I say unless 33, 32 was just free anyway and they wanted to shoehorn it in there. But like I said, Champions League's that week. So they have shoehorned it in against Champions League.
When they don't need to.
Mm,
So it
yeah.
suggests to me, as I
Yeah.
discussed quite a lot last Monday, that I think they want to keep 36 free because they don't want teams to have to play Sunday, Wednesday, FA Cup final Saturday. So 36, as it's looking now, it's beginning to look like, unless fixtures are moved from the FA Cup final forward to the midweek before, that it could just be, as I maybe suggested last week, a drawn out game week that's like Friday to Tuesday, and it's just a single game week. We probably will have something going there, and there's a few obvious ones. Chelsea, Manchester United, we've said if Manchester United are still in Europa League. Basically, they'd only have to get to the semi-final stage. They've got to bring it forward. Similarly with Villa Tottenham, if Villa got to the cup final and Tottenham are still in Europa at that stage, that's because the Europa League final is the midweek between 37 and 38. So it's not like there can't be doubles there, and it's not. I'm not saying that they won't bring those fixtures forward. I just have the impression from everything they've been doing so far that they want to leave that midweek free. They're bringing things forward, right?
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I still have no clear idea on what my strategy is yet as it stands, James.
I think I do, but I ain't got as many chips as you.
Yeah, this is the problem. So 5 weeks. I looked at my last 5 game weeks, James, and because I'm now up to 5 transfers in the bank, stacked them all up. I started 5 weeks ago with 2 free transfers. So in that period, I've used 2 transfers. I've used no chips, and I'm 100k better off than I was 5 weeks ago. So I've basically done fuck all for 5 weeks, apart from adding Liverpool players for the double that got announced. So that was it. I've done nothing. So I've kind of just had my mind, I wouldn't say I've had my mind off FPL, but I've never found myself in a situation where I need to do things. Like you've had situations where you've had injuries, like you've got Ahmad now as a potential problem that you've got to solve. I've not had any injuries or problems to solve. I've not landed in any week where I'm like, I don't like a particular setup in my team. I've managed to ride through the doubles. I didn't need to play the AssMan ship and so haven't. I've done nothing. And now though, with 5 transfers, I actually do need to figure out what my strategy is going to be and how I'm going to get through this. But I feel like I'm in a good position with lots of options open to me. I've already got triple Newcastle, though I'm going to get rid of Gordon. I think Gordon and Rodgers, I think will go for me. And I think Trent and Gakpo will go for me, which will only leave me with Salah and Isak to ride through game week 29, which means I don't need to use free hit in game week 29.
We will discuss.
When am I going to use it then?
Well, yeah, this is part of the problem. I think 29 is more attractive than it was a couple of weeks ago, and we'll discuss that in more detail for you tomorrow. I think for those who are unsure on chip strategy, your point of decision time is before game week 28.
Yeah,
I think that's the time where you want to be really close, or at least kind of narrow it down to A versus B options. So don't think the chances are, just think about this logically, you're not going to play a chip in the next couple of weeks.
No.
And I don't think anyone new is going to be. So I don't think many AssMans are getting activated now. Right? People are obviously still on it. Understand? I don't think anyone's playing triple captaincy or free hit in the next couple of weeks. Or bench boost might be one that lands for people just because their team's set in the right way, and that's fine. But I don't think people are planning. So the next couple of weeks, it will be sit tight. Let's revisit again after the FA Cup 5th round between 27 and 28. And then that's the point where I think people need to lock in their strategy. You don't need to lock into anything now.
No, my only difficulty is if I need to start using transfers now, because otherwise I'm going to lose them. And depending on what my strategy is, dictates what my transfers are going to be. So if I knew I was riding through 29 and not using free hit, for example, then Gordon, Gakpo become expendable. If I'm not, then it's a different conversation. Though it's highly likely like Gakpo will move on for me anyway, and Gordon possibly anyway. But what I mean with knowing my strategy earlier is knowing what transfers I'm going to make now.
Yeah, but then listen, there's kind of seem the same. My team at the moment, you might get forced into those decisions by injuries or something, right? Might make it
quite possibly. Like, if Gakpo doesn't appear at all against Villa, then I think I'd be quite happy to move that on with other options that are available. I'm on 59 points for the week so far, which is 2 points above safety. It's given me a rank rise of like 40k, so I'm 280k at the moment as it stands, with the triple Liverpool in Trent, Salah and Gakpo ? And Rodgers to go. So I've got 4 players to go. Fairly happy with that, not having played a chip. Quite a lot were on AssMan, less so on Mo Salah in terms of triple captain, but he was still over 200% EO. So there definitely were plenty that activated it on him. The returns were fairly boring, I would say. Most of them in terms of Gabriel, Trent, Salah, most people had. Semenyo's assist, I'll take it. Like the midfielders of Bournemouth didn't all go off. It was Otaro who really got the most, right? But I'll take Semenyo's assist. It was Chris Wood, who you either love or hate in this game as it stands. The people who own him just love him, and people who don't, he's become that player where there's that mental block of non-owners are just like, I can't go there now because I've missed so much. You always get players like this that people develop a mental block against. I think Chris Wood with his 9, and frustratingly, Mark Flecken, who now has 10 points. If they found, Opta must have found a save for him or something, because he was on 9 before. I don't know when he went up to 10. I didn't even notice, to be honest with you. But yeah, I'll take that 10-pointer all day long. Wood and Flecken are the ones that have really done me well this week. The others, I think, are pretty meh.
Brilliant example of someone asked me on one of my streams Friday or Saturday that said they'd Flecken and Verbruggen, which a lot of people have been on that combination for quite a while, because it was a period if you were wildcarding to go them two together because the fixtures rotated really well. Was asking about taking a -4 to sell either one of them for Kepa.
Yep.
And they've got 10 and 11 respectively. Flecken
10 and 10, I
think.
Week.
Verbruggen was 11, wasn't he? Or was he dropped to 10?
He's 10. He's down to 10. Yeah,
still great, isn't it?
It's still all right, isn't it?
Don't take hits for goalkeepers if you've got a playing goalkeeper. It's generally kind of an unwritten rule I have in terms of goalkeepers. Yeah, obviously for you, it's against West Ham, right? So
it's frustrating.
As I tweeted you, in success.
It's only my 3rd goalkeeper clean sheet all season. So I love it. 59's okay. I think if I can, I'm at 280k. If I can come out of this anywhere around that 280, 270. Then I'll have got through 24 and 25, having made no transfers, played no chips, and I've only dropped like 50k rank. So I'll be well happy with that. And I've got wildcard, I've got my bench boost, I've got my free hit, and I've got my AssMan to attack the last kind of 12, 13 game weeks of the season. Here we go.
I mean, here's the reality, right? I'm ranked currently at time of recording 24k. I think you can still finish above me.
It need everything to go my way, but what's the points difference? About 80, 90 points difference?
It could go very badly for me. I'm on 1711.
Okay, I'm on 1637. So yeah, we're talking about 75, 80 points.
It's doable with the chips though.
If my AssMan, if I can get a couple of table bonuses somehow, then yeah, definitely doable. And or bench boost goes off.
You've drawn back 11 on me this week as well.
So far,
you're
still a game week to go. A game to go.
Yeah, but we've got the same players,
right?
So we've all got Trent, Salah, Gakpo, and Rodgers to go. And actually, if Gakpo doesn't appear at all, you're another one up on me because you've got Gordon coming off the bench.
Who have you got coming?
I've got Levi Colwell, pointer, because I had Diallo as first sub, didn't I? That's, as you said earlier, that's another problem I've got to deal with now. So I'm on 48 for the week. I was going to say a big deliberation. I didn't have a huge amount of time to deliberate, but it was a lot of forwards on the table for me for a Jackson replacement. Once it was confirmed sort of Wednesday afternoon, Thursday morning that Jackson was obviously going to be missing until April. I wanted to hold him for them Southampton, Leicester fixtures coming up for Chelsea. Possibly done me a favour, right? Because he probably wouldn't have done anything Friday night. And the most awkward one for me to buy was Mateta, because I need to run through 29. But I'd come to the conclusion the only reason I wouldn't be buying him is exactly what I said to you on the Patreon pod in the morning, is because he doesn't play in 29. And that fixture would have been not the best on paper, Newcastle away. And for me running through, obviously now he's gone in, the intention is for him to stay with me through this period. So I kind of committed when I bought him that there's every chance in 29 I was committing to going with less than 11 players.
Right.
And knew that was going to be part of the script here. So at least he returned for me at the weekend and got something. To be honest,
I mean, all the strikers that were on the table there. I mean, Cunha scored.
I think they all scored. Wood scored. Cunha scored.
Mateta scored. Watkins scored.
Watkins, yeah. So all of them that I was considering all scored. So it was kind of by the by from that perspective.
They didn't all get max bonus though.
No, that's true. Of course, the one who scored the deflected goal did, right? Couldn't you get top bonus as well?
I'm not sure, actually. I didn't check. He was off my radar. Couldn't you have got top bonus?
Joint top bonus. As it stands, obviously that one could change because him and Luis Diaz joint on top bonus. You can tell that I don't own Chris Wood by the fact I mentioned that this was a deflected goal.
Tell you haven't got Wood because you've been married 5 years, mate, or 7 years, or however long it is.
Oh, you didn't see the bit on the deadline stream
I didn't.
with my wife talking about Chris Wood, did you? That's worth a look.
No, I didn't. So I bought him as my Cunha replacement every week. Like within that time, I've had 12, 8, 9, 12, a 2, 17, and a 9. Like that's a tear. 3 double-digit returns, 2 nines and an 8 in there. Like monster.
I had a look late last night, drunk, for the first time at potentially trying to put Haaland in for 29. And I think if I do it, I think I'm taking Mo out,
Okay.
which is like, yeah, I've been down this route before. But what I'm looking at now is, I think in terms of captaincy, if I did go against him, there's something really to take him on with every week from 29 up to 33. And I think I'm going to have to wildcard in 34, I think. I don't like, but I just think that's what I'm going to have to do. For me to maneuver 33 to 34 with 29 without the chips in there, i.e. a free hit, I'm in trouble massively. There's every chance I'm landing at 34 with not a lot of transfers and like 5 players. So I think if Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool will play in that week, which is the most likely, he's probably just steam into them and obviously bits of others and factor in the potential for 36 doubles, which I won't have the info on. But what I was looking at, Suj, is obviously 29, Salah's not best captaincy, it's Haaland, right?
Yep.
30, Salah plays Everton, Haaland plays Leicester, right? I can take that on.
If you've got Haaland, you're gonna captain him. Yep.
31, Salah goes to Fulham, which feels like the sort of fixture I think ordinarily is the one you look around and go, okay, this is the sort of one I might want to look at alternatives. Isak goes to Leicester.
Yep.
Haaland goes to United. So there's alternatives. 32 is now Isak, isn't it? Double.
Yep.
And 33 is not going to be Salah because he's not going to double now. So I'm looking at that and going across them 5 weeks. It's a possibility I wouldn't captain him. Therefore, maybe I should probably take him on. I don't advise this. I'm just saying that this might be the route that I end up taking.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
23 goals and 14 assists
I'm aware,
in 25 games.
Yeah.
Monster, 37
like,
attacking
am I
returns
sitting here and going, I want
games.
to sell Mo Salah? No. But you also remember me saying that the person who wins this game this year will probably take him on at the right time. I can't win it with what I've got in terms of chips left. And I'll obviously die or do well over that period, right? So
yeah,
I'm leaning towards I might do that now.
Is he potentially racking up one of the greatest Premier League seasons ever? If Liverpool win the title.
I mean, he's a shoo-in for Player of the Year anyway.
Oh, 259 FPL points as it stands. Do you reckon the 400's on?
So someone asked me at the weekend if I think he'll beat his 303 points. I was like, which week?
7 game weeks.
Will you do that before the blank? Like,
yeah.
Sorry, what was your question?
Yeah, I honestly think that we will look back at it. If he can get up to kind of 30 goals, 20 assists, is possibly the greatest Premier League season a player's had. To win the title with Liverpool in slots. Let's get there first before we start raving on. But every week, it's the inevitability of it. I'm just waiting for the alert to go off that Salah scored. It's not even like I've any doubt that he's going to. It's crazy.
I was in a pub watching the game yesterday in Tottenham with our good friend Callum Mates and some friends of his.
Oh, nice. He came over, did he?
Yeah, he was over for the game.
Lovely.
And I just had a feeling he was going to miss, and people were looking at me like it was really weird.
He doesn't do that. No, indeed. No. I had a little blessing at the weekend, which I didn't expect. Rico Lewis back in the Man City team. He was firmly rooted third sub on my bench. So I'm not going to get his 6 points for the clean sheet, but I didn't expect him to play and I didn't expect a clean sheet. But in terms of my planning now, seeing Rico Lewis get back into the team and maybe thinking that it might save me a transfer or a headache or give me a player that's going to play through 29 and 30 that I can maybe count on. I'd like to see him start a couple more, but that was a nice surprise to be able to see Rico Lewis back in the team.
Well, they went from having every centre-back back for Real Madrid to then they were all out again at the weekend.
Yeah.
So that's a consequence of that. Particularly Akanji is obviously a long-term injury. So
that's
helpful for you with Lewis.
Yeah, for sure. Good. Let's talk about some of these games then, James, shall we? Starting with the Friday night. Brentford's demolished Chelsea just don't seem to be.
Brentford wish they demolished Chelsea.
Brighton, I said. Did I say Brighton?
You good,
Brighton.
Carry on.
Brighton 3, Chelsea 0. Like, comfy as well.
Yeah, I mean, this time last week I discussed how Chelsea were pretty limp at Brighton in the FA Cup. This was no different.
And
That's
Brighton have all their home results that have been good have been against the bigger, better teams. And this is another example of it.
Yeah, there's real frustration behind the scenes, I think, from Chelsea supporters now. Not some of it is aimed at Maresca, but it's more how the club's being run in terms of their transfer activity. What's the actual philosophy of what this football club wants to be? I think there's concerns from Chelsea fans about that at the moment. The reality is they got well beat,
Mm.
absolutely well beat. Jackson, the Chelsea guys have been saying to us the team doesn't function as well when he's playing. And again, I said to you last week, but Lavia, I feel like the even bigger miss at the moment. They miss his energy in midfield. I think he complements with Casado really well. Yeah, I mean, some of the defending on the goals is absolutely awful. The third goal, you could feel it coming for about 2 minutes, but they couldn't clear their lines. Every time they tried to play out, give the ball away, and then off the ball, they were just lethargic about things. And Minter just dances through and scores. The second one, he's able to dance away as well. Um, to be honest, it wasn't an unfair scoreline. Brighton were comfortably and deserving winners. But anyway, can we just talk about the best first touch in the league? Oh my God. It was Valentine's Day, and that's not the noise that she was expecting, but that's the noise that she got, mate. Oh my God, something involuntary came out of me when he did that. When he took after he'd controlled it, Mitoma, and then took the touch away, I just said, please score. Goal of the
He's
season.
a
Thank you
he's
very
a
much. Off you
he's
go.
a special player, and he has been chipping in with returns. He had a couple of blanks before this, but it's three double-digit returns in the last five now. They go into Southampton, then Bournemouth, Fulham, Man City, Villa afterwards. A very tricky, even Palace after that. So really, if you're on, you kind of hold for Southampton, but it doesn't fill me with. There's no long-term value in Brighton assets. I wouldn't want to be even Minter's been on the score sheet and what have you. Just don't feel like I want to go there despite
No.
the good result. Just because after this week of Southampton, the fixtures do turn. They're going to be difficult. Bournemouth, Fulham, City, Villa. Yeah, not for
Yeah,
me.
I think ultimately, I don't think the fixtures are terrible. Ultimately, if you're running through 29, you're like, that's it away to City. It just doesn't feel great, despite whatever you feel about City. The fixtures aren't too bad otherwise. Like, I guess in a weird way, if you were free hitting in 29 and you took the City fixture out, maybe there are fixtures. The fixtures are a little bit more appealing because then you've got Southampton and Leicester in that run across six of the next seven, removing the City game, and Bournemouth, Fulham, Villa are all at home. And actually, they're all decent sides, and we've just said Brighton do better in some of these games. There's the derby at Palace as well. But I think realistically, you're probably not looking to chase after Brighton assets. It's probably more what the João Pedro owners do, because a few people are obviously still on
I
that.
mean, he's been stinking out their teams for a while now. I moved it on ages ago. I think. I mean, I don't know what his ownership is like now. Let's have a cheeky little look.
Well, I think the biggest problem is I think Jorginho Rutter's played really well in these two Chelsea games.
11%
And
overall.
I don't think he deserved to come out the team. And they're always better when Welbeck plays. Ironically, we thought that Welbeck returning might get the best back out of João Pedro, but actually it has impacted his minutes because Rutter's been doing quite well. And that axis of Mitoma and Minsa are two out and out wide players. Like João Pedro is not really suitable for either of those. He obviously started at Forest with this 4-1-4-1, partly because he was so short of midfield players, but that obviously needs to go in the bin. They were just way too open. So don't think to go back to that. He did something quite cute tactically in this game, which was a little variation from the FA Cup game where Minter basically went into right back off the ball, actually. And so they went into a back five shape without the ball. I don't know if that was a consequence of Lewis Dunk missing. So I mean, Brighton had some players absent as well. Lamptey's playing out of position at left back at the moment. Much better with that partnership, Baleba and Hinshelwood in midfield. I think that'd probably be the best two for them moving forward. I think that's good for them. What's the João Pedro ownership, Suj?
11.3 overall. So I don't know what the dead ownership in that's going to be, but maybe 7 or 8% live. Not sure. A lot have gone off him. I mean, I don't know where you'd go in terms of price.
Jimenez?
Yeah, potentially. Or just bench it. Just chuck it third on the bench and forget you own him, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it might be a case of it's up to sort of like Cunha and you need to downgrade in midfield.
Somewhere else.
Yeah,
Because that's where the good value options are in midfield. If you're talking about the Bournemouth guys or
and even
uh,
the Wanyeri
yeah,
is obviously putting his hand
exactly.
up
He's
now.
quite popular at the moment.
On Chelsea, despite the fact there's these Southampton Leicester games coming in 27-28, I don't think you want to add from that at the moment.
But the
Jorgensen,
flip's true. You're not selling though, right? I'm looking at that as Cole Palmer's return to form. Southampton, Leicester, and the thing with Cole Palmer, I mean, his ownership is north of 60%. If he does go off, which he's capable, it will hurt you. So I think Cole Palmer's one that I think I'm sticking with for now. You talked about selling Salah over that period, and we talked about alternative captaincy options. He never came up in any of the game weeks that you talked about. Would it not be an option for you to move him on in 29 to get Haaland rather than Salah, or
Yeah, but I
does the
need
money
every
not
player.
work?
I mean, Palmer plays, so and actually, it's a
Yeah.
big difference. It was what 3 million, 2.5 million difference
Yeah, the
between
money. That was
Palmer
my
and
question. Is the
Salah.
money a big problem? Yeah,
It might
but
be.
for
Yeah.
now, for me, he's expendable after 29. Cole Palmer. But in my strategy, that's keeping Salah as opposed to losing Salah as well. So, but I want him for Southampton, Leicester.
I think he might be a make weight for people who want to get Haaland in 29. Obviously, I would not want to sell before 27, 28. I definitely can feel amongst the community a real frustration. I don't know if it's specifically with him, but clearly with Jackson absent, that they look a bit more blunt going forward. So that's not great. You mentioned a statistic last week about the amount of chances he'd created, 30 plus, I think.
Yeah, it was 32, but at the time
More
period,
than
it's probably
anybody else
changed
since
now.
Christmas, I think.
Yeah,
And none of those
none of
chances
them
had been converted into
Yeah,
into goals, and they were a bit toothless going forward. Madueke injured as well now, hamstring injury. So it's pretty much got to be Neto and Sancho in the wide positions. I don't think those two will get enough goals. They'll contribute, but if you said to me now one of those two players are going to get 10 goals between now and the end of the season, like I don't believe you. I wouldn't consider those players for fantasy, for example. So therefore, Palmer is still the clear talisman from that. I don't think there's any evidence on Friday to make people feel like they want to jump onto Nkunku when the Bournemouth lads are doing so well and when Yeri's showing it, obviously putting his hand up. So I think Chelsea avoid. And I think, yeah, maybe once you hit 29, they'll be expendable for people. But just remember, and particularly again for those who are free hitting in 29, what you're basically looking at of fixtures coming up is after Villa, you'd have 4 fixtures effective from 5 game weeks if you remove 29. And then home games are against the bottom 3, or at least the 3 promoted clubs. I think Wolves are 17th at the moment, and Tottenham. And then there's a trip to Brentford. Like, I actually still want Palmer for that.
Yep. Yeah, he'll only be a mate weight for me if I need to figure out a way to get Erling Haaland, and we'll talk about City in a little bit, because maybe he won't be fit, and that will save all of us by meaning it's easy just to get Marmoush. Let's talk about Leicester 0, Arsenal 2. You mentioned Nwaneri there, quite popular at the moment because it's only 4.5. Comfy win for Arsenal in the end, though they did leave it late.
And did Arsenal fans truly think that they were scoring in that second half? I bet there was some nerves kicking in.
Probably, but I think they had a gear to go through, in my opinion. I think it's always one of those where inevitably the pressure tells. They did leave it late, though. But if you look at the XG, the amount of chances they had, I mean, they didn't have a huge volume of shots in 11, but they did dominate the game.
That first half must have been really painful viewing for Arsenal fans. It was painful viewing for me as a neutral. It wasn't great at all. I mean, Leicester did pretty well. I think they can consider themselves a little bit unfortunate they didn't get something out the game. I mean, Lewis Skelly made one brilliant interception at the back post to deny Bobby Decordova-Reid at 0-0. If Leicester scored, I think they'd low block that. Mind you, I was always thinking Leicester do always concede. I think they've conceded in every game under Van Nistelrooy, and I felt there'd be chances. And on COTC last Thursday, we did discuss the prospect of Merino going up front, which I'd raised because he's the closest in profile in that squad to Kai Havertz, the one thing he absolutely has. And we'd seen it from the few goals he has scored this season, the ability to arrive in the box at the right time. He scored a few headed goals this season. This was obviously another one, the first. And with the second one, you can see the cultured ability in his technique. He's very relaxed. It comes across to him and he just knows how to strike the ball cleanly and direct it into the right place. And I guess you would have to think now that for West Ham at the weekend, he plays as the 9, doesn't he?
No, I wouldn't go that far.
Do you not think so? I think he does, mate.
No, when I say no, I don't think he will play there. I'm saying I don't know is my answer. Like if someone more educated around Arsenal than me, like Clayton or yourself, if you watch the game, say, yeah, he's going to play up there, I'll take your word for it. But it's quite a change. I don't know if they just try out the same team. I would say that based on what I saw of West Ham at the weekend, and it was a bad showing from West Ham. Like Arsenal, for me, I wouldn't go so far as to say maybe captain one of their players, but if you were looking at where to move the AssMan to, Arteta is as safe can be in terms of where you would go. And I think if you're talking about racking up additional points for goals, I could see them scoring 3 or 4 at the weekend. So whether or not Marino's up top there, I mean, what other choices do they have? If you're going to tell me he's done well enough in his 30 odd minutes or wherever he played, 20 minutes that showed that they were better with him there, then maybe, yeah.
The alternative is to play Sterling again. And I know which one Arsenal fans would prefer.
He's getting Pelters is probably harsh, but it's kind of painful to watch a player who's been so good, so incapable at the moment in Sterling.
Well, completely outshone by the 17-year-old on the right wing. What I would say on Nwaneri and Merino, and clearly they're going to get attention again, particularly for those running through 29. They've got a really good fixture this week, which I think shows up even more with City, Liverpool, Newcastle, Forest playing each other. So there's a few at the top of the table, obviously playing each other. So if you were to attack Arsenal, now feels like the right week to do it if you hadn't already. If you're heading towards specifically 29. If you're not, I'd probably leave it for the time being, because I do think that once you hit game week 30, you're in the potential there where Martinelli might be back. Saka might be back.
I was going to say, what's the news on Saka? He's not too far away, right?
Yeah, Clates thinks he probably won't be involved before the international break. So then you're looking at game week 30 and onwards. Martinelli, I suspect, is probably going to be the same. But so therefore, you've only got 4 game weeks, and then you've got to deal with this potentially coming out of a blank. And I think reality is, if Martinelli's back fit, just that, then they'd probably go to Trossard as the 9, I think, and Martinelli left wing. Nwaneri can stay right wing. And then, of course, when Saka's back, that's potentially going to push the young lad out the team. So absolutely no if I was free hitting this week, I probably would put Nwaneri and Merino both in. I'm obviously not going to free hit this week. But I think your interest in them should be defined by how long you definitively want them for. If you want to go there and you're happy to go, yeah, do you know what? I might hit game week 30 and I might need to, you might not have to, but I might need to move them on. Fine. If you're looking at it now going, well, I want this guy in as a season keeper and I'm short of chips, I'd probably be overlooking these guys. That said, Nwaneri, value is now clearly by a mile the best sub 5 million midfielder in this game at the moment for the immediate weeks to come. And obviously, if you haven't got a bench boost, you used it earlier in the season, then the biggest reason to say not to get him is, are you concerned you might block yourself a free Arsenal? Which could include the manager. Because I think if Arsenal did double in 33 and Newcastle didn't, you might want to end up going how to Arteta in 33 if you're AssMan then. So just consider that in your thinking as well. So you could look at it now and it might be, oh, I've only got Gabriel. So you put Nwaneri in, that's great. And you go, well, I'll leave it open for Arteta. Yeah, but you might want Saka at that point as well. So I just
Rogers to Nwaneri right now gives me almost $1 million in the bank, right? Which is a lot. I don't particularly see myself like, would I rather Nwaneri with his fixtures or Rogers with his when he's got Chelsea, Palace, Brentford? I think I'd rather up until and then a blank. I think I'd rather Nwaneri for the short term, But like you said, I just need to figure out how to reverse out of it or what that leaves me with afterwards. But yeah, definitely an interesting one with him. Leicester not of interest at all.
Nwaneri would be absolutely brilliant for what he is, a 4.5 midfielder. Like, he's better than that, no doubt about it. It's kind of a gift, isn't it? 4.5 midfielder playing for the team that's second in the league. Merino could have a streak, though. It might be one where we sit here in 2 weeks and go, geez, have we got to do something about this? It could be like, how it felt like that time with Gundogan, particularly.
Yep.
He's got that vibe about it. Oh my God, it's a 6 million OOP. Could be. We should touch on AssMan. I think that's the most relevant here. But actually, this is a good time to discuss it. So a lot of people will be thinking of obviously moving on to something in 26. I had a look at the betting odds for all the games in game week 26. And obviously, Arsenal are the most likely team to win this weekend. I think given a sort of 75 to 80% chance of winning, somewhere in between there, it's very high anyway. in terms of the ones, if you're chasing a bonus manager, the options now are not great. So you've got Ipswich, Southampton at home to Brighton. You've got Van Nistelrooy at home to Brentford. McKenna at home to Tottenham. Potter away to Arsenal. Pereira away to Bournemouth. And Glasner away to Fulham.
Probably.
Glasner away to
Because
Fulham
if Villa beat Liverpool, then Glasner to
yeah.
Fulham doesn't work.
That's right. And also, if Villa do beat Liverpool 12-0, you can have Howe against Nottingham Forest as well.
12-0 only, yeah?
12-0.
Okay.
Well, 13-1, 14-2. Any of them will do the job.
Cool.
Do you know which one is the shortest price for the bookmakers to actually win this weekend from the bonus potential managers?
Pereira?
It's actually Van Nistelrooy.
Wow.
Home to Brentford.
I can't comment on that because I'm too biased from seeing Brentford smash my team in the weekend. I know it's 1-0. We'll talk about it in a bit. Smash my team.
I will caveat that by saying the difference in the pricing is pretty close between Palace, Leicester, and Ipswich, particularly. Obviously, face Tottenham, and I could certainly see the appeal of McKenna against my team, but we do have obviously the week's break built into it, and that is beneficial for us, which we'll discuss in a bit. They're not great options.
No, that's why I think if it was me, I'd go
Just
Arteta. Just a safe option, yeah.
Some won't be able to, though. Think about this logically, right? Because if you've gone sort of Moyes to Emery and you don't have money in the bank, you're taking a hit to go to Arteta. With what
I wouldn't do it for a hit.
Yeah, that's the point.
I wouldn't do it for a hit. I wouldn't. It's almost like goalkeepers. I don't like taking hit. I don't know if I want to take a hit for a manager if it's not for a bonus and I haven't already banked a shitload of points from a manager.
I think if it's got to be for a hit, subject to how you feel about Villa after Wednesday night, just stick with Emery. Yeah, judging by what I watched of Chelsea on Friday night.
Yeah. Let's talk about Villa. Villa 1, Ipswich 1. I mean, people, that wanted to go Emery would have thought that the first fixture was the banker and then anything from Liverpool was a bonus. And they've ended up drawing this game, James.
Yeah, it does look from the statistics like it's one of them where it just wouldn't go in. I think Morgan Rogers, who's obviously in a lot of teams this week, I think it was the player with the highest XG who didn't score this weekend. So maybe that will come for him on Wednesday night now. Yeah, it's a disappointing result.
2.4 XG they racked up, 6 big chances, 25 shots.
On a different day, they
76% possession as well, so dominated the game.
The save from Alex Palmer right at the end, where he manages to flick it back behind his head and out for the corner, is one of the saves of the season. Astonishing save. Full credit to it. Switch got a lovely goal from Liam Delap, who continues to tick over really, really nicely. I mean, you mentioned about João Pedro to where.
Actually, yeah.
Well, I tell you what, you could do worse than Delap, couldn't you?
Yeah.
The fixtures
I think he won't annoy
Ipswich.
you as much as like a Pedro will tick along because maybe your expectations are lower. Spurs, then Man United. Yeah.
Forest at home, it does play in the blank. Maybe it's that. We keep saying Jimenez. His fixtures are better after the blank, maybe primarily because of Wolves at home 31. I guess a lot will wildcard 32. Then Jimenez looks worse because they've got Arsenal and Liverpool. And Delap all day goes to Bournemouth in 30. It just looks better, frankly. So, yeah, maybe Delap is a solution maybe for João Pedro owners. There's not anything else I'd be looking at Ipswich at the moment. It's worth saying as well, Twanzebe, who I thought played really well when Ipswich won at White Hart Lane early in the season, is obviously suspended for the game at the weekend. And I think when they've had their most vulnerable games this season, they've been without him. Obviously, in this circumstance, going down to 10 men, they've obviously shut up shop, for want of a better term. And that's completely understandable under the circumstances. But I think he'll probably be a miss, actually, because Sonny wouldn't beat him. But he might beat Ben Johnson on that side. Yep. Possibility.
What would you do as a Morgan Rogers owner for Villa? Because many will have bought him at 5-1, 5-2. He's at 5-7 now. Could bank a little bit of money. At the same time, when I look at the other options that are available, are they that much better than him? Because he's a really good player. He's always involved in and around. At any point, he can return. I don't know if I would think like, well, Kluivert's on penalties, but the likes of Semenyo or whatever, I don't know if they're better than Rodgers if you're already on Rodgers. Where are you moving that's that much better?
You're asking an Amad Diallo owner here, what am I doing with Morgan Rogers? At the moment, absolutely nothing. Obviously.
Yeah.
And he's perfectly fine to get. I think the problem for me is someone who's obviously got to run through game week 29. I want to carry Isak and Hall, particularly. I now want to carry Mateta. If I don't sell Salah, I'm carrying Salah. If I did want to carry more, I'm carrying Liverpool players more before I carried Rodgers. So he's one that it's almost like a shoo-in that he's expendable for me at some point. He's probably to a Bournemouth midfielder, probably specifically in
Dango.
29.
So if you're going to go to Semenyo or Clivert, you're going up by a few pips. Semenyo's 5.7, Clivert 6. If you go down to Django, it's 5.1. So you could save a bit of money going there. Nwaneri is potentially an option to go down. These are the top point scorers that are cheaper than him that you go down to. Sade, Ilanga.
Got more points than Rodgers.
No. This is in order of. He's got 5 points less. He's on 94. Rodgers on 99. Still not a big difference.
Huh.
Damsgaard's up there, surprisingly, 92.
He's had a really underrated season, Mikel Damsgaard.
Murphy, Smith Rowe, Ismail Assar, no. Thomas Soucek, no. Really, you're looking at it's Django, maybe Elanga, or like you said, Nwaneri, go down all the way to there.
Yeah,
if you need to go down.
Elanga might be the one for me in 29, particularly if by that point I think there's a strong possibility that Forest might double in 33. Then that one might really appeal for me. The most likely is I'm going Diallo to a Bournemouth midfielder now, and then when I'm ready, I'm going Rodgers to another Bournemouth midfielder. That's probably, sorry, it's dull, but that's probably what it's going to be for me, I should imagine. Yeah, I do think he's expendable. I certainly wouldn't run to get rid. I wouldn't look at that Chelsea fixture with any fear whatsoever, because if they can pull Caicedo out the centre of the pitch, they're very, very vulnerable.
It's at Villa Park as well, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And I don't think Palace away and Brentford away should hold fears afterwards either. I think it's probably just more, it's particularly one, like I said, who run through 29. When you look at it, you're going to go, that's the one that I can cut because he's a more difficult one to carry through. And I've had him at 5. I've had him near enough to maybe since game week 1, if not certainly from the wild card in game week 3. So I've got value held in him. He's just a more difficult one to carry through. I've got no real need for him. And I think their fixtures do as a whole stiffen up. They've obviously got Champions League involvement as well. I do think that there's a strong possibility they'll get through their last 16 tie. They're probably going to play Dortmund or Atalanta. With a second leg at Villa Park, I'd give them a strong chance of doing that, actually. So you might have him big Champions League quarter final around the period after the blank as well. I think Villa assets generally, it's not to say anyone's done wrong by going there. I think they're generally cuttable from any point, but you need to be in the luxury where you've not got players with red flags, right? Otherwise, yeah, I might have been going Rodgers to a Bournemouth midfielder this week, but I don't think I'd have forced that, Suj. Probably not. I'd probably would have left the decision as late as possible. And it's similar for those who've gone Watkins. I wouldn't have any great desire to rush that on. The one that's really going to appeal for Watkins owners, I think probably from 27 or 28 will be Cunha. That's
cool.
the move I see people making.
Let's talk about Fulham 2, Forest 1. If I was to copy paste the stats from the Aston Villa game, it'd be pretty similar here. The home side, Fulham with an XG of over 2 and Forest barely racking up half. 24 shots for Fulham, 56% possessions, dominated the game. 4 big chances as well have ended up coming away with a victory as well, 2-1. Like, really good result for them considering the form that Forest have been in and what they did the previous week. Really good season they've had this year, haven't they, Fulham?
8 saves from Matt Sells. Yeah, I think Fulham have had an absolutely outstanding season. They're above Villa in the table now, right? Really good season. It's just Forest and Bournemouth have put themselves really in Champions League contention, so therefore has kind of overshadowed it. They're not miles off, mate. If we're saying Villa's still with a chance, you've got to put Fulham in that conversation at the moment as well.
For Europe.
Why not?
Yeah, for Europe, I was thinking, not for top 4. I think they're behind Bournemouth. They are 4 points as it stands right now.
8th is where they are currently, Fulham, I think. That's probably going to be Conference League place. Okay. So at the moment, yeah, they're very much on course to qualify for Europe. And I think they've got some good fixtures left. That period of sort of 30 to 32, Arsenal, Liverpool, Bournemouth away, and then you could maybe say the derby with Chelsea 33 looks like an ugly period. But the next 4 is pretty attractive. Lewis James is coming on COTC this week with Rory McLaughlin-Dowd to discuss the game against Palace this weekend. Palace, Wolves, Brighton, Tottenham heading into the blank.
Just looking at the table, look at European places, James. Like, imagine if we stop the count now. Like, who is England sending to the Champions League next season?
Forest and Bournemouth.
Forest and Bournemouth.
With
Fucking
Liverpool,
amazing.
Arsenal and Chelsea.
And City.
Oh, sorry, 115.
City are fourth. Yeah.
Joking. City are going to get off. And probably people probably know
if
by
you'd
now.
said to me at the start of the season, we're sending Forest and Bournemouth to the Champions League next year, I'll be, yes, I'm here for it.
I think it's amazing. Good luck to them two teams, and good luck to Fulham
pushing,
for the rest of the season as well.
But yeah, really good result. But Chris Wood has popped up again. Like, this guy is a pest for any non-owners, isn't he? Just crazy. 7.1 now.
But it's the same, right? So I might have a Gakpo problem I need to deal with as well, right?
Yeah.
So what I would say is, once I go Diallo to a Bournemouth player, probably, I would have the team bust at the moment with Gakpo on the bench away to City as it is. I'd actually, him versus Rodgers, I'd probably play Rodgers against Chelsea, I think, out the two at the moment. Yep. So I could afford to stomach it for an extra week. But if I do need to make the move now, am I going to Wood? Newcastle, Arsenal, City? No, yeah, right. I'll probably be going Cunha.
Yeah, Bournemouth, Fulham isn't great, but Everton, Southampton, West Ham, Ipswich, Spurs, Man United, Leicester. Like, that's Spurs will give up chances. United a pony. That's a long, sustained, good run that Wolves are going to need to get results in. I'd be going Cunha all day long, and he's 0.3 cheaper as well.
The consequence for me, though, is if I'm going to take a route of going Haaland, I need to go in 29 specifically in place of Gakpo.
Because you want to keep Isak.
Why do I want to get rid of Isak? Because he's blanked at the weekend.
No, because he blanks in 29. Well, you want him in 32. I get it.
I want Isak in 30.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've got Isak and Wood, and I don't see any reason. I mean, like, Wood is technically on paper more expendable for me than I would rather Cunha over this period, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think we've hit by Cunha stage if you're looking for a forward, personally.
But the flip side is, if I was to free hit in 29, then I'd end up with a front three of Cunha, Wood, and Haaland for that week specifically.
I think even there will be some Wood owners who will consider going to Cunha. Not now this week. I think maybe more the week after.
Then it's Arsenal City. Although those two games are both at the City ground. Just remember that. I don't know what difference that makes, but they are.
He's perfect talisman, Chris Wood. And reality as well is, once you get beyond the Arsenal game 27, I don't think you're fearing City at home anyway. But then fixtures are okay again. They're all, kind of all the way in the running. From once City get beyond, Forest get beyond 28. I always said this: if Forest was in the top 5 at the end of the game at 28, I think they'll do it. I think they'll finish top 5. The running is really good, so I wouldn't be moving him on if I owned. You've probably got value held in for a lot of people. I realise some coming later won't do, but yeah, I would hold Chris Wood. I wouldn't be moving him, and I would play him in the majority of these games coming up. He scored a hat-trick at St James's last season, as a reminder. So I wouldn't. I mean, Newcastle
and that's a Manchester City. That's a Newcastle United team that have just conceded 4 to Man City. Man City 4, Newcastle 0. I mean, City did dominate the game in terms of 62% possession, though the 4 goals came from an XG of under 2. Then they had 7 shots on target, scored 4 goals. But I mean, a City back to some sort of rhythm and form. Is there anything we can take from this to say, actually, we need to pay attention to Man City? Shout out to Edison as well, another assist. Like, what a guy!
He's got more than a lot of high-profile fantasy assets now this season.
What a guy!
Well, City have got mini Rodri now, and I use Pep's words. Can I just say one line on Sasa Lukic of Fulham? 100% pass completion in that game at the weekend, and that included the fact he made 7 key passes.
Wow.
He has had such an underrated season and stood in for João Paulinho so well. I think he didn't work as a partnership with Paulinho, and that's why we didn't see him so much. He's really stepped up. He's had a brilliant season for Fulham, one of the most underrated players in the league. I think, with respect to Fulham, be some top clubs beginning to look at him, Sasa Lukic. And a top club has already also looked at a midfield problem. They've got Nico Gonzalez. So we spoke about him last week.
Mini Rodri. James, all I would say is, if we were playing Sky, tier 2 all the way. Tier two
Oh,
passing all the way.
100%, 100%. I think he completed 100 passes on
100 out of
Saturday.
103. If you're going to give Sasha Lukic some props, that's 97% pass completion for Nico
Yeah, but
Gonzalez as well.
Lukic should do that with 7 key passes as well. That's
Yeah.
yes, for a central midfielder, that's great. For Gonzalez, yeah, we have to listen to Pep's words. You could see the feeling within Pep of, yeah, my little Rodri. Like, so he's gone and played that position. And I've not seen a huge amount of the game at the weekend, but he just looks more streetwise in terms of what he's doing. And they've not had that. And I mean, in terms of pressing at the right time, backing off at the right time, he's controlling the game. Everything with City has just felt way too chaotic during the course of the season. He looked like he brought some calm and authority there. That genuinely could be a huge changer for them. Now, I think we should also have the caveat that Newcastle have had. There's an argument to say that might have been their worst performance of the season, arguably. It's up to Newcastle fans to tell me if that's right or wrong. But one of the worst, at least, because it didn't really show up. And a lot of Newcastle players even said that after the game. Like, yeah, we were under it. Not good. I don't know what that would be. Got a horrendous record at the Etihad. I don't think they've ever won there.
Oh, wow.
Ever. So it's just a place that they seem to do very, very badly at. Yeah, Nico Gonzalez could be having a real positive impact for City. By the way, on Haaland, who had this scary incident with his knee, as far as we're aware, he's absolutely fine and will play in the Bernabeu on Wednesday night. The City headliner one here for fantasy, of course, is Omar Marmoush with the hat trick. 3 very well taken goals. Although on his hat trick goal, that's an absolutely atrocious piece of defending from Newcastle as a team. He surged 7 million. I don't know if I need to sell Gakpo. Do I look at him as an alternative to Haaland? I mean, not as an alternative to Haaland, but maybe an alternative to Cunha, maybe.
I mean, it's a tricky one. He started every game since he's come in, right? He's played 70-ish in all of them, 70-something in all of them.
But he didn't start against Madrid in the Champions League.
No, I mean league game. Fair play. He's not returned in any of the others, and his XG and XA in the others wasn't like huge. This is the first time he's really got in and amongst it. I would need to see more for me. If it was, it's one of those where you're buying the second best asset, assuming Haaland's fit. And why would you want to do that? Like with the best clubs, the philosophy is always get the best assets, right? Why take the second tier asset? If he was a midfielder, I think it'd be a different conversation.
He's half the price, Suj.
But he's a forward, sure. But you're not going to captain him, are you? Whereas Haaland, you're going to captain.
But in game week 29, if you end up with Marmoush and you go in a game week 29, you may well captain him in that game week.
I understand that you have made a compromise there, then, which is acceptable. I don't think it's if going Marmoush means that you can keep Salah and keep Palmer and keep Trent or whatever it is you're trying to achieve, then sure. But there are certain times I just don't think it's worth cheaping out and getting the second best asset. And going into 29 and 30, I would rather find a way of getting to Erling Haaland. If I'm stuck, sure, I don't have a problem with Marmoush. But when we talk about the best teams, it's about get the best assets from the best teams rather than compromise. And as a forward, he's not it. Erling Haaland is.
I think investment for City probably shouldn't be there over the next 3. Liverpool.
Can I add the caveat?
Go on, yeah.
If Haaland's injured or gets a knock, like he's in faster than you can say. I think
maybe
it's rapid.
But it's still not a guarantee, is it? Because a lot of the attacking players are back fit. Like, we've not seen Oscar Bob yet, but he's kind of back, right? That's another layer to add into this. You've obviously got Foden, De Bruyne. There's a lot of options in
Savinho,
there, right? Savinho,
I think he shouldn't be discounted. Another
Doku,
assist. He's got 10 assists this season. It's decent for his minutes.
There's a lot of options. And that's why I think, really, if you are buying for City, specifically with 29 in mind, you should probably leave the decision for 29. Come back to it in 29 itself would probably be the advice at the moment. I think those next 3 are tricky enough that I'd probably avoid that at the moment. Plus, what's the consequence if they do go out on Wednesday night? Does that kind of bring the happy momentum from the weekend back down? Liverpool go there Sunday. 3 days later, they go to Tottenham, which obviously has been an awful fixture for them for a number of years. It is 3 days after they play Liverpool, and you're probably going to get a more energetic Tottenham. It might actually be a genuinely challenging game for City. There's no doubt Forest away the weekend afterwards will also be a challenging game. feel like I want to say that might even be the 12:30 kickoff. I'm going to check that actually. So hang on a second. It is, yeah. So they've got Liverpool Sunday 26, Tottenham away to Wednesday, and then the Forest away Saturday lunchtime in 28. Yeah, come back for them in 29. I think is the right thing to do at the moment. I would not be chasing that Marmoush return just yet. I think very much keep an eye on it. But if you're giving me like a Marmoush versus Cunha choice at this moment, yeah, actually I'm going to go and buy Cunha. Wouldn't be looking defensively. I think yes, Rico Lewis for usage. He's back in the team, but no idea if that will last or not. Is the Nunes right back
It
experiment?
just stops
Is it
being
over now?
it stops being a problem that I need to solve. Like it might just be a. Like, I have no high expectations from Rico Lewis. I'll take what I get, but it just means it's not a transfer that I have to force to try and find the player. But yeah,
For Newcastle, one thing I would note in terms of obviously Forest next is obviously a challenging game. I would expect to see a response. Would you consider captain Isak this week?
no.
Who are you captain this week?
Uh, this is a really interesting one. Which while we talk about City, this Liverpool game now takes on a slightly different dimension. I mean, if City feel like they're in some sort of form, let's say if City go and get a result against Real Madrid, right? Where are they playing, Wednesday or Tuesday?
Wednesday. So
Wednesday. If they go and get a result and this Gonzalez kind of role in the middle is a bit better, I feel like it's less excited about captaining Salah, I would say, this week because it's a big game. I probably still will captain Salah as it stands right now. Yeah, as it stands right now, it's Salah.
captaincy doesn't look great this week.
No, no,
Palmer at Villa, this doesn't appeal at the moment, does
nah,
it?
no, no.
What Marino against West
Semenyo,
Ham?
Wolves at home.
Marino against West Ham.
He needs to go and buy him for that to work.
Bumo at Leicester.
That's a good shout. I would like to get Brian and Bumo, but I don't think I'm going to be able to.
If I think City's back four is going to be the same against Liverpool that it was against Newcastle at the weekend, then I think I'll be going Mo still. And I think if I haven't got enough conviction or confidence in anything else, that's probably what I'm still going to do. But I don't mind Isak home to Forest. I think it's probably between those two. Anything else becomes punty, doesn't it? And there's nothing wrong with Cliver, Semenyo, for example. Bumo has said, I genuinely don't. If people went Marino, I'm really convinced he will play as the 9. It'll be in my top 10 for captaincy this week. I'm certain.
Yeah, I don't hate it at all. I don't hate it at all. Let's talk about Southampton 1, Bournemouth 3. Like this Bournemouth mids has been a ongoing conversation for a while, and it's been Dango, Cliver, and Semenyo been the three that been throwing their hat in the ring. The 6 highest FPL point scorers for Bournemouth this weekend were all midfielders: Christie, Dango, Cliver, Tavernier, Semenyo, Brooks. Now, Brooks was only a 3-pointer and Semenyo got the assist. But Ryan Christie was the one, James. We were wrong about all the others. Tavernier back in and picking up a goal as well. Yeah, you could line up with a midfield 5 of Bournemouth, couldn't you?
I really, really like Ryan Christie. I think he's a really influential player for Bournemouth. You know what else I'd really, really like Ryan Christie to do this weekend, don't you? Let's get
Tell
booked. It's on 9 yellow cards. Get him suspended for Tottenham away and go.
Brighton and Spurs, you get a 2-game ban. Yeah.
If you hit 10 now, yeah. Remember, it's 30-second game is the amnesty. The way he plays, he is going to get a 2-game ban at some stage. And I keep speaking about this every week. That will have a negative impact on whatever games for Bournemouth that he misses. I'm really, really confident it will have an impact. It's not to say they wouldn't still win the games. I'm just telling you they function much better when he plays. I guess for the Bournemouth mids was probably a bit of a disappointment, this, particularly with getting the 2 goals so early and Utara and Kluivert both returned over that period. With Utara, that's the short-term one because of where he's playing that looks the best. But again, after the break, what have we got? We've maybe got Evan Nilsson back. Got other players returning to the squad now. Their benches beginning to look a little bit stronger. So they've brought Tavernier, Scott, and Sinistera. Sinistera can play in attacking positions. They've all come off the bench at the weekend. Like, remember when at Newcastle they had nothing but Jebison, right? So it's beginning to get a little bit stronger. That's an impact. While he keeps scoring, I guess he keeps playing now.
Yeah.
But I'd be worried about it as a long-term pick. I think up to the blank, you're probably okay. Don't have concerns on Semenyo or Cliver. And I think the choice is between them two for me. And whichever one I don't get, I'm probably getting the other one in 29. That's how it feels to me. So I haven't made a conclusion yet on those two. I think my intention had probably been to go Gordon to Cliver last week prior to Jackson's injury news. So I think I'm probably going to stick down that route, probably go for Cliver, I think.
No interest in Southampton other than target them, right? At the moment, they're just another 3 goals conceded. That's 57 goals conceded so far this season. Yeah.
27 captaincy, right? Salah at home to Newcastle or Palmer at home to Southampton?
Palmer, Southampton. I think I'd gamble on that one. I do think I would. I think I would.
I'm not making that decision now and booking myself into it, but I'm aware that, I might be selling Cole Palmer, or we might be sitting here this time next week if he has a good weekend and thinking, this is one I want to take Mo on with. There's a possibility. And if you're going to do it, But I must say I've done that once already this season and that backfired because Salah did really well at St James's that night, didn't he? Palmer only got the 1 goal.
That's always a risk you're taking when you go against Salah.
I very much hope Southampton get on with this getting over Derby's points total as quickly as possible, and I've no doubt. I've no doubt that they will do it. By the way, I don't think they're that atrocious, but clearly they've had this problem for months now, where every team that's playing them is absolutely thinking got to beat them. What was striking from the bits of the game I saw was the sheer speed of Bournemouth when they won the ball back, and their intensity and how quickly they wanted to go and attack and hurt the opposition. And I think that's how teams very much view Southampton. Once you win it back, get at them as quickly as you can because there's clear vulnerabilities. I must say, Aaron Ramsdale made some really good saves in the game. You wouldn't be looking at Southampton. For those who kind of had Dibbling in mind, I guess you're more looking at like Nwaneri now. Not saying you'd move that necessarily, but Nwaneri's kind of stepped up as the one at that sort of value now. For Bournemouth, defensively, Kepa, House and Kirkez will all still do the job for anyone who's looking. And despite conceding at the weekend, I've got no real reason to put anyone off with any of those assets. As said previously, little preference for House over Kirkez, but I think he had a price rise last night.
They're both. Kirkez is now 5. Howson's now 4.5.
Yeah,
so over the past,
and Kepa's 4.6 now. I want to say maybe.
Arrida Balaga is 4.6.
Yeah, they're all still fine, particularly if you're heading towards 29. But even the beauty with Bournemouth as well, whatever your strategy, they will appeal. So going to cover you great 29, good fixtures before, good fixtures afterwards. Probable double in 33 as it stands. Like whatever you're on, they're going to appeal to you. So they're on radar for me, probably bigger than anywhere else at this moment.
Nice, good. West Ham 0, Brentford 1. One of the surprise clean sheets was the Flecken one. If ever there are stats that don't tell the story of a game, James, I'd say this flatters West Ham quite a lot. Nearly 60% possession, you can't argue with. It was only 2-1 to Brentford in terms of big chances. Only 14-13 to Brentford in terms of shots. We completed 150 nearly more passes than Brentford did. The problem is when goals get disallowed for offside and VAR checks, they don't go on the stats, mate. This should have been at least 3-0 at half time. And Brentford, I really at half time thought this is going to be one of them where you rue missing your chances and West Ham score a shitty late goal in the 75th, 80th minute. You end up going away 1-1 thinking you should have won 4 or 5. And it just was a bad day at the office. Or everything. It felt like everyone had a couple of pints on the Friday night and everyone had turned up Sunday league a little bit groggy, not quite at it. Across the board, everybody was just sloppy. Brentford, though, have this ability from front to back. Once they get in behind at you, they're just so quick and rapid at chance create, like Mbomo, Vissa. They're just so fast. I thought they were really good, Brentford. I didn't expect to lose this, but they took us to the sword, really. Nothing really positive to take away for West Ham. Other than Areola, 15 minutes before kickoff, was out I don't know what happened in the warm up. He had an injury. Fabianski was all set to play.
Oh,
And then
really?
Areola started the game.
I didn't know
And
that.
then obviously you saw the first goal, the acrobatics. He pulled off some good saves, and he has been
Mate,
all right since he's got back in the team. But he was hung out to dry there. How he ended up like roly polying and keeping the
Mate, that
ball
was one
out
of
and
my
then not.
favorite moments of the weekend. He made one save, a second save, ended up breakdancing on his head,
Yeah,
and then managed to make a third save, but obviously
but
it
it
was over
wasn't.
the line.
Yeah, and considering like 20 minutes earlier he was out the game, so he was that was the only positive takeaway.
He's
Um,
Can I
yeah,
just say that for a lot of us like me, you haven't got Flappy, have you? I've got Flappy.
nah, nah.
Like,
Flappy ain't
don't
getting back in the team right
no,
now.
no, no, don't deal with it till you need to,
Okay.
because Areola is injury prone.
Yep.
I know his goalkeepers is unlikely to get injured, but he does pick up little niggles and stuff. And there's little things I look further down the line with Flappy, and like for example, 33. For those who bench boost in 33, imagine you make the goalkeeper change and then suddenly it's like, oh, Fabianski's back in for Southampton at home. You'd be thinking, I'll take that. Might save the transfer there. Don't, my advice would be don't deal with that till you need to. It's a rare one that, but I just know Areola's injury prone. And I wouldn't be surprised if Fabianski saves me here at some point and becomes of use. I don't think there's anyone else from West Ham that's going to particularly be of
I
use
mean, I nearly
to me.
bought Bowen, and with Arsenal this week, he's an absolute no. I think if you're looking at Brentford. I think, and Bomo, the only thing with Bomo is he's nearly 8 million now. So where are you going to get to Bomo? If you're going from a Gordon or something, you're going up. If you want to come off Luis Diaz or Jota after the doubles, if you've had a midfielder, you're going up. If you're in Vissa, like we talked about, where are you going if you're coming off forwards like that? You want to come off. Maybe Vissa is a shout because he should have scored at the weekend. He should have got points and didn't. He's dodged them. Even against in the Tottenham game, he had an XG of 0.79 in the Tottenham game and has dodged points as well. They've got decent fixtures. Leicester, Everton. The Villa game is at home, so it's not too bad. Like I'm not against Brentford players in the next few because I think they'll do all right. Who do they play in the
Go to
blank
Bournemouth.
game week? It's all right. It's
The
not spectacular,
problem
but it is all right.
the problem with Brentford assets, and I've kind of written them out in my mind. So I know there'd be some people listening to me talking about forwards earlier and going, what about Vissa? And I completely get it. If you're heading towards 29, you're looking to wild card quite quickly soon afterwards. Again, please don't do that in 30. Then Vissa, Leicester away, Everton at home, Villa at home, Bournemouth away. Like they're all fine for him. I think he's particularly consistent. So that's a potential one to cover the forwards. But I'd said 2 weeks ago with Brentford assets that I had to write them off under my circumstances with no chips to maneuver, and that's because the fixtures after the blank, like Bournemouth away, is not great in the blank. Then Newcastle away, then Chelsea at home, then Arsenal away. It's not great to get the double out of them 33. I need Forest to get to the cup semi, and then at that point, okay, maybe on game week 33 itself, with a double of Brighton or Forest, to go, yeah, I would like a Bumo or a Visser in that moment. I'll tell you what would impact Bowen as well, by the way. The biggest thing that I think will impact Bowen interest would be if Brighton won at Newcastle in the FA Cup.
Brighton won at Newcastle because
But if Brighton won at Newcastle and then in the quarter final they were drawn at home to Burnley, you're suddenly projecting Brighton West Ham off in 34, presumably then into 33, and then
double.
you'd be looking at a Bowen double that included Southampton at home. Okay, right. Now he's back on
It's
radar, right?
interesting. Yeah.
And it might be that we can see that just before 29, and then it's Everton, Wolves, Bournemouth, Liverpool double. For Bowen, that's not terrible, but yeah, he's probably not for me, Suj. I think I
Yeah,
think
not at the moment.
I think
Not at the moment.
I'm overlooking in it, and to be honest, I think I'm probably overlooking Brentford as well. Sepp Vandenberg picked up an injury they need to
He
keep an
did.
eye on. He picked up a knee injury, but Ethan Pinnock's been back on the bench for the last couple and obviously replaced him. So I think there was inevitability Pinnock was coming back in the team at some point anyway. I guess it's a note. Some people will have Vandenberg knocking about as a fifth defender. You need to keep an eye on that news. And it's a possibility that it might open up the door for Pinnock to get back in the team anyway, if you was hoping Vandenberg was going to get you minutes in 29.
Crystal Palace 1, Everton 2. Beto keeps rolling on. Where's Clayton when you need him? And a good result for Everton, a great away win, climbing up the table under David Moyes. Though Crystal Palace had the majority of the chances here and the majority of the shots and racked up a good XG.
Is Beto going to be this year's Mateta? Just that cheap forward, like right towards the end of the season.
The end of the season that just cleans up. Well, look, if Calvert-Lewin and Dyer out, we know he's going to play now. So that's the first thing.
Well, does Calvert-Lewin get him out the team when he's back now? I think you keep playing him while he's scoring, didn't you?
Yeah, you do. You do. Is he still 4.9? He must have gone up to 5 by now.
Surely Beto. People have already bought this.
He's still
4.9. So.
Still 2.2% ownership. We've not mentioned him as a get out for any striker. What are the fixtures like? Man United, Brentford, Wolves, West Ham. It's all right up until the.
Do you know what? Absolutely. If you knew now that he was going to play to 29, and of course at his value, that you look at the fixtures afterwards, you could bench him. You could just I'm having him for the next few, and then he's my 8th attacker moving forward, and I'll bench him in some of the crap ones because he's cheap enough to do that with. Although I do think ideally people should have you look at the bonus points for like Wood and Cunha at the weekend, it just acts as a reminder that really you should have 3 forwards in most case scenarios. But you could do that with Beto as a little bit of an out. And of course at his price, it maybe enables people an easier route towards Haaland if they want to do that in game week 29. And maybe it is Watkins to Beto now and Isak to Haaland in a few weeks and just move a little bit of the money.
It's hard to compare value wise because obviously there's not that much available at 5 million. But let's say you were buying today, would you rather Beto or Django at Bournemouth? Because they're 0.2 apart.
But Dango, but then I can have 3 other different forwards, right?
Yeah.
So I guess it would be a better way if they were in the same position. Probably still Utara. Yeah, Utara.
No, so Nwaneri or Beto, 4.5 versus 4.9.
I don't think either of those players can be judged much beyond game week 29 at the moment. But if needs must, Nwaneri would probably be more useful after it. Again, because he could then sit as the 8th attacker if he's out of the team, and I've still got 3 other forwards. The problem with Beto is you can go there, and genuinely, I think he's really good up till 29. Actually, should be fine if people want to do that. But we've already mentioned earlier on this podcast about where do you go from João Pedro, right? So he may be an option, but just fast forward 4 weeks. What's the option if you need to move Beto on? Then it becomes even worse. You might be thinking, I need to pay for an AssMan and stuff like this. Like he could just become a complete washout for you if you're short on chips and stuff. Again, I think for those maybe wildcarding sort of around 31 though. Yeah, sure. Particularly if it opened up that to the potential for you to get Haaland for 29 and 30. Yeah. I can't laugh at it anymore. Like when he went through, I knew he was going to score. It does speak volumes. And I did think of Clates. Clates, love you, mate. Well done. Big bad birthday boy Beto. It's never going to go away. I really enjoyed this game, actually, Suj. I thought it was a cracker. It was one of them 5:30 Palace Everton, and there's nothing for the two teams to play for because Everton have done so well recently. I don't think losing had any real consequence for them, and Palace have been doing well for a while as well, so have got themselves well out of trouble. So you're thinking, well, this might be garden centre stuff. It was about half time, and I thought I haven't looked at my phone once. It was really engaging, and that it was good energy, good pace to the game. Quality sometimes was questionable, but I think Everton did really well. I think that there's definitely could have gone the other way, but I think Palace didn't really capitalise on the moment when they equalised. When they equalised, you thought, yeah, they're going to throw it at Everton now, and it just didn't really create enough in the last half hour of the game or so. So I think a bit disappointing because they'd obviously put the likes of Eze on at half time. Then they get the goal and you think, oh, okay. Everton dealt with that really well, despite some questionable moments defensively as well. Jordan Pickford played really well in goal, I thought. And many of us, I think he's the most owned goalkeeper at the moment, certainly in terms of live EO as it stands. So I think we're certainly carrying that till 29. Then there's an assessment afterwards, depending on what people are doing on chips. I guess a lot of people would have benched the likes of Tarkovsky, Braithwaite, Mikolenko if they went for it this week. So it's probably
I played Mikolenko this week over Lewis Hall. Yeah, over Lewis Hall. and over Rico Lewis, also understandable, but that one's backfired in my
I
face.
think all of these guys are particularly useful for you up till 29, so I wouldn't be moving any of that on at the moment. I think West Ham at home 29. There's definitely potential for a clean sheet there. I think of the offensive guys, I would only really be looking at Beto. I do think Charlie Alcaraz is worth keeping an eye on. Obviously, assist and a goal here. The assist coming from an absolutely bizarre Tyreek Mitchell throw-in directly to him, where Mitchell and Lerma just lost concentration of each other. The way to pass to Beto is good, and it's finished very well. I think with Ndaya absent, he certainly stays in the team. We're probably not expecting Iliman and Die back for game week 29. So if you've got that, you're probably looking to move it on. And ironically, you might just be looking at your mate Beto and going, I wish I'd done that in the first place, but I don't think you could have foreseen this.
No, I mean, and I was clearly a better pick than Beto, but has played out like you can't predict an injury. It's just played out as it has.
For Palace, Mateta's the one. I think clearly if you want one of the offensive ones moving forward, and I went on it because I think the fixtures are strong enough. I think it's probably not a this week move with Fulham away, but then afterwards Villa, Ipswich both at home. Then yes, there's the blank. Southampton away, Brighton at home. Palace are absolutely should be right on your radar if you are already committing to free hitting in 29. And again, I don't think you should do that yet, but they're a great one where if you make the decision before 28 and you go, yeah, do you know what? I'm committing to free hitting in 29, and you've got Ipswich at home 28, Southampton away 30, they're going to be so far on your agenda. So Mateta, Eze.
Brighton at home, then the double. Double isn't great, City and Newcastle away, but just take it, right?
I'll come back onto that in a sec. Sarah, I think I can understand people want to move on because it's not been great. So again, your likes of your Bournemouth midfielder is going to really appeal. Mateta, I've invested in. Anyone's got, I think, should be holding on at the moment. Eze is a watch and wait at the moment. We do know he's carrying this problem. Ben Chilwell came on for Tyreek Mitchell in the second half. Keep an eye on that. Certainly wouldn't buy either at this moment. Munoz, we know the potential of what he can be offensively. I think Dean Henderson will be an option. The likes of Mark Gay are so trustworthy in terms of minutes, and the price is reasonable as well. So pretty much across the board, the majority of the Palace team needs keeping an eye on. In terms of them and this potential for the double-double, Suj. So we are looking at the potential prospect here, and this is a possibility that Glasner could have 5 bonus games in 3 weeks.
Yeah, I had to look at that. That was pretty mental.
So as it stands at the moment, they're 13th and Brighton are 10th. So Palace host Brighton in game week 31. So at the moment, it wouldn't be a bonus, but the points, Palace are level with Everton. United and West Ham are quite close behind. So if Palace did have some bad results, they could quickly drop. And actually, you look at things like Brighton playing Southampton this week, Brighton might climb a bit. I think if you get the Brighton game that's a bonus, the 4 that follow will all be bonus. So 32 we now know is City away and Newcastle away. They're both going to be bonus games. And if Palace reach the FA Cup semi-final, as already discussed, we think the Arsenal game comes forward to 34 to 33. And then you've got Bournemouth at home and Arsenal away. It's not definitely Eddie Howe.
It's cojones to do that, but at the end of the day, if you're doing,
I look at them games and I think they ain't getting much there. But
no, because the City, Newcastle, Arsenal games are all away.
Yeah, but it could even be that if you take the 32 option as an example, maybe that Newcastle would rotate in a little bit.
Yeah,
it's a midweek fixture, maybe. I might be a little bit out there. They've actually got one of the better records at City, ironically. They won their, was it last season or the year before? They had another 2-2 draw there. They won 3-2 there one year, that ridiculous volley from Andros Townsend. So their historical record at City is better than most. If you wanted to chase the massive haul potential there, I mean, look, if Glasner did have that, there's 100 points on the table there if they win all 5, right?
It's monster.
I mean, they wouldn't, would they? But you'd probably be happy with 2, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, you want 30, 40 points would be amazing. Yeah, and don't forget, like, even if they get draws, you're still getting a little bit of table bonus for the draws, right? So It's just the volume of fixtures without needing to use a transfer to get you through. It's tempting. I'm not going to lie, it is tempting.
It's a shame it doesn't stretch one more as well because we've got Nottingham Forest at home in 35.
Well, you
It's
can
going
only
to be
play it over
another
three
bonus
weeks, so
game, isn't it?
yeah, that's
So,
true.
I mean, another way of potentially doing it, they could have. Obviously, now with the Newcastle game going into 32, 33 to 35 is all bonus games. Bournemouth at home, Arsenal away, Forest at home. But then you've got no double across that. So you're not going to play it that way. That was the one I mentioned last Monday about having Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest at home for the potential bonus. Looks really, really lively. Bench boosters won't even do that one. They might look at 34 to 36 because I guess in a theory, again, it would need Palace to drop and Tottenham to rise, but it goes to Tottenham in 36 as well. Could be another bonus game. So Glasner could have a monster run here of
Points.
bonus games,
And he did
possibly.
at the end of last season as well. Let's keep eyes on it for sure. Let's talk about Liverpool 2, Wolves 1. James, loving this game. Points for Salah, captaincy. Points for Trent, getting hooked at 64 minutes or whatever it
That
was,
was
just
handy.
before the goal. That was beautiful. When I looked back at the stats, I didn't get a chance to watch this game, James. It really did look at game of two halves. Like, I looked at the stats for the second half. No shots for Liverpool in an entire half of football.
Yep. It's legit.
And
Well, I'd
the
say it's legit. Salah had a goal disallowed. So again, it
you know
doesn't show on
the
the stats.
activity map just showed literally Wolves dominating the second half.
I'm sorry for the free. I'm going to take a real chance here because there's every chance Ipswich will beat my team at the weekend, obviously. But I cannot see any of them three teams finishing above Wolves.
Did you see enough in the second half that made you think Wolves have going to get some good results?
I've seen enough
because that affects me wanting to go and buy Cunha.
I've seen enough in Wolves since Pereira walked in the door. Beat Manchester United, watched them. Beat Villa, watched them. Deserved the draw at Tottenham, arguably should have won. And that's against, expected top 8 opponents. And they played really well against another one here. And their fixtures, I mean, frankly, now, yes, Bournemouth away is obviously very challenging this weekend. But frankly, their fixtures as a collective till the end of the season, they might even be the best of any team from this state.
Yeah, I mean, it's a prolonged good run. It goes all the way through to the last couple of weeks.
Well, they've got so many of those games out the way. In terms of like away games they've got left, Bournemouth, yes, this weekend. They go to City in 35. They go to United 33, Palace 37. This is like as bad as it is.
Yeah.
And the home games as a collective, Fulham, Everton, West Ham, Tottenham, Leicester, Brighton, Brentford. Right. If you need points to stay up, you ain't going to get much better than that.
Yep. Cunha, really big eyes on Cunha now.
And they've got
Gakpo to Cunha looks
player.
Solid for me.
Yeah, Matthias Cunha's on radar for me, but as a consequence, like I said, if I take the Haaland route, it's probably a no with him. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I still got weeks before I need to make that decision, though, which we'll talk about tomorrow. Because if I go Cunha, I can use my free hit in Gameweek 29, and it makes a difference to me then because I'll get rid of Isak, keep Isak, but use the free hit to get Haaland in, and then hold my breath for the Leicester game.
Yeah, really impressed with Wolves. I think they're a little bit unlucky not to get something out the game. Actually, they played the new midfield lad, Montesi, is it? Monetzi, sorry, Marshall Monetzi. As I said, I was watching the game with Callin, and I'd never seen the boy play football before, right? And all the word was he was a central midfield player, might even be a holding midfield player. I didn't know little more than that. Right? He absolutely played as the 9 in the second half. He is priced at Suj 5.0. I'm not suggesting anyone goes and buys it, but keep an eye. We do think Strand Larsen's quite close to being back, so it probably changes quite quickly. But yeah, he went and played as the 9. He should have scored as well. He had one brilliant chance. To be fair, Alisson was off his line so quickly, and that was at 2-0 early in the second half. At that point, I think Aït-Nouri will be popular in future weeks. Once you get the Bournemouth game out the way, if people are looking for a defensive one, I think it then swings where people go, oh yeah, Aït-Nouri fixes me really good here. And I would pay the extra for that. Again, no, if people need to find their money for something like Haaland, you can obviously consider the likes of Agbadou. He's yellow flagged following a knock in that game yesterday. So keep an eye on that. Yeah, Wolves are, I think, a big conversation from next week, Suj. And I think also for those who went activated the AssMan this week just gone, Pereira at home to Fulham might appeal in 27.
I might go Cunha now, just to get rid of Gakpo. I don't need Gakpo now. I might just go now. I've got 5 free transfer gems. I've got to do something.
If I have to move Gakpo now, I'm taking that route, yeah. And then Haaland's a no for me, I think.
Well, I have to make a transfer, so that might be it. What about in terms of Liverpool now? They come into a slightly tougher run over the next couple, but then you've got Southampton. I don't think the triple up is as essential as it was with the blank coming up. Salah stays for me. Trent for now stays, at least with the Southampton game on the horizon. But none of the others that have got high ownership. The next highest in ownership is Van Dijk, Gakpo, Diaz, and then you're down to less than 10% with Alisson. So really, it's Van Dijk, Gakpo, Diaz have got the bulk of the rest of the ownership, all expendable, right?
Yeah, all you've got to factor in with that, the Southampton game will linger as like an obvious, captain Salah, keep your Liverpool assets for that. Just bear in mind, I think it becomes an awkward one in the event, and it's 50-50, that Liverpool play Champions League Wednesday before and Champions League Tuesday afterwards, which we don't know yet, right? But suddenly, if you're throwing in the toughest game Liverpool could have is PSG, if you're suddenly throwing in that they play PSG Wednesday night in Paris and then second leg at Anfield on the Tuesday, that Southampton game, I think, almost then becomes a concern, particularly for people like Trent. With Mo at the moment, there seems to be no sign of resting him or even taking him off early in pretty much any game as it stands. But that then would make every other Liverpool asset, bar probably say Van Dijk and Alisson, questionable in 28 under that circumstance. Because surely Slot will look at that and think, well, I can use this one for a bit of rotation. He's not going to go like Plymouth rotation, right? But if he goes, I'm going to play Bradley at right back and I'm going to play Jones in the 10 and I'm going to play Nunes and Jota and stuff like that. Like, he's still strong enough to beat Southampton at home, isn't it? So
easy.
Just be very aware of that. I think particularly if it's Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday schedule for Liverpool roundabouts that game, then alarm creeps in. And we should get that information, I guess, Friday this week. I don't know if we'll get it before deadline. If not, certainly we'd have it before 27. That's a guarantee. So we'll know then. I think if that happens, then there's a case to cut the likes of Trent earlier and stuff.
Okay.
I don't think I've been clear on this all the way through. I know he's got me some good returns. I don't think that that's really worth the money. And I've kind of lucked out with a 6-pointer again at the weekend. Trent is definitely one I'm happy to cut once we get towards 29. Gakpo would definitely be a cut for me. Salah is a to be determined kind of on my path. But I think actually, if you're running through 29, I think everything bar decide what you want to decide with Mo, everything else can be expendable, I think.
Okay.
Remember, they are not going to double in 33 if you really are running through and you don't have the chips. The fixtures are still good, but then you might have Everton on the midweek in the 30, Fulham is weekend, and then for West Ham at home 32, you might have the same problem, which Champions League quarter-final Wednesday and then Tuesday afterwards, and West Ham at home in the middle. That could happen.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, James, Mo Salah now on 37 goal involvements this season in terms of goals and assists. Do you know the most in a 38 game Premier League season?
For goals and assists?
Yeah, goal involvement, goal and assists.
I don't think it's much more than 40. Is it about 45?
There's 2 players tied. One is Terry Henry on 44 and the other is Erling Haaland when he had his first season on 44. Yeah. So you'd think 7 more to eclipse that. The most in a 42-game season was also a tie between Andy Goldkin-Cole and Alan Shearer was 47. So you wouldn't be surprised if another 10 goal involvements, goals and assists, he'd overtake the most. If he gets to 50, that's got to be one of the greatest Premier League seasons ever.
I think I might have this wrong, but I think I saw Kelly Summers do a stat on Football Focus on Saturday that Salah has already got the most goal involvements in away games in a season.
In a season? Already?
Yeah, already.
Ridiculous. Yes. When we get to the end of the season, we can wax lyrical about him as much as we want to. Let's talk about the final game, James. Spurs 1, Manchester United 0. How was your protest? I heard him called Daniel Never Levy yesterday, which I liked because he ain't going nowhere despite you walking down with your yellow and blue scarves or banners or whatever it might be.
I didn't protest.
Okay,
I didn't sit in the South Stand after the game either. I'll talk about this more on Patreon on Wednesday. I'm not against the protest at all, by the way. I'm just not
got more
necessarily
important
in
things to do.
with. Not to be honest, before the game, no, not really. After the game, I did. I'm not against the protests in any way, by the way. I actually support the cause that they're doing. I'm just not
Yeah.
going to do it with them for reasons I've explained previously. Shite game. Let's be brutally honest about it.
Well, it was shit v shite before. Like, come on, Man United versus Spurs with the players out, and there was no real expectation of a thriller. Let's say.
Vic's back.
I mean, you did have 22 shots. They did have 16 shots, but did it feel like a game with nearly 40 shots in it?
No,
Yeah.
no. Vic's back.
Yeah.
Our season's been dead in the water since he got injured at Manchester City, and that's now 2 clean sheets in a row for Vic now, mate, because he kept a clean sheet at City. It's also unbelievably 2 consecutive Premier League clean sheets for Tottenham, having won 2-0 at Brentford. No, I can't quite believe that either. But we were very fortuitous to get that clean sheet yesterday. A combination of some good saves by Vicario and some bad finishing, particularly from Alejandro Garnacho. Meant that Manchester United didn't register on the score sheet. They should have, in fairness, in the game. But yeah, Vicario's returns so big for us, man. The rest of the players, Van der Ven, Romero, Solanke, and Richarlison, we all think are going to be back around about the time of our Europa League last 16 first leg, which is a few days before game week 28. I think realistically for FPL at this moment, please don't buy Tottenham assets would probably be the advice. Vicky's obviously going to go back in goal now. That's quite clear. And it's a level up. I think everybody could see him filled out yesterday. Jed Spence obviously is playing incredibly well. Deserved man of the match again yesterday. He's obviously got Destiny Udogie was back in the squad yesterday, potentially puts a threat on his play. So people think, oh, that's an enabling Tottenham. I wouldn't bother. Pedro Porro is not worth the money at this moment. Avoid all that. Maddison's back. James Maddison's returns per minute this year are pretty good. But I wouldn't bank on him playing league minutes because I think he's going to be very much required as an importance in the Europa League games. So I wouldn't be surprised if he plays Thursday and then he's a sub on Sunday. I think you're going to get bits of that. So ignore that.
I mean, he's on 113 points, 9 goals, 5 assists for the minutes he's played. It's really good. 4% ownership though, for James Maddison, nothing.
You'll remember when some dickhead I know did 15 transfers and then had to activate a free hit. You know I went.
You played him, yeah, and he didn't turn up.
He didn't turn up, and this was the
he
first
wasn't
time
well,
we've seen him
James. He was feeling poorly.
What he does bring, above all else, I think matters. That there was a pass he played for Sonny in the first half where he wrapped it in between the right back and the centre back, and he sent Sonny away down the wing. There's no one else in the team who can play that pass. So it's his vision, and because of the consequence of his capability to do that, people go tight of him, and it does create space for other players a little bit more. So I think as a consequence, although he really pisses me off sometimes, Matters, I think as a consequence, him being back in the team is good for others as well. Matthias Tell obviously played as the 9. The data yesterday is better than what I saw with my eyes. I think we have to remember that he's still a 19-year-old boy. He makes some terrific off-the-ball runs and he's very willing. Very, very. He doesn't strike me as just it's not just a young kid's come into the team and he wants to kind of show that he's really up for it. I just get the vibe this is how he is. He's quite bouncy and energetic, and there's a lot of good off the ball stuff that I think will lead to him being a good player in the future. But at the moment, him playing as the 9 and him having to hold up the ball sometimes with people like Maguire in your back, like that's worlds away from Solanke's capability. And when Solanke is back, Solanke will come back in that team as the 9. Where Tell then plays after that, I'm not sure. So I've already had a couple of questions on him because, again, if you're heading towards 29, you think Ipswich next, couple of home games, Fulham away, great. 1, Solanke will be back before 29. 2, I cannot tell you where Tell is going to play. I know where I want him to play.
Well, he might be on the bench, right?
Yes, that's also a possibility
If you're
because
going to play a
again,
front three of
uh,
Son, Solanke, Kulusevski, he's going to be on the bench. You're not going to play him in the midfield
I,
three with Bentancur and Bissouma and whatever
I
else, are
would
you?
want him on the left. And be
Ahead
very,
of
very,
Son, I know, but
yeah,
Son's your
very clear about that.
captain and all that. I don't know if he'd get in ahead of him,
But
but
in any case, in terms
it's
of
not
Tottenham
it's not the
assets,
risk worth taking.
Tottenham assets really should be off your radar because the priority is going to be the Europa League while we're in it. And that means the best team is always going to play on a Thursday night. So it's not necessarily so game week 29, we're playing Europa League last 16 second leg on the Thursday, then Fulham on the Sunday. Right, to tell you now who's going to play in 29. Yeah, good luck with that. Definitely felt the benefits yesterday of having a week of no game. And I think for those looking at McKenna, it's not to say Ipswich won't beat us because clearly the vulnerability is there. They've already beat us this season, and Delap is a handful. We give us real problems when we played them at White Hart Lane. But I do think that Tottenham having the week rest is huge. So, like the Leicester game that we lost a few weeks ago, absolutely Leicester deserved to win that day, but we were on the floor. We had nothing in terms of energy. We had 5 players return to the squad yesterday, and it might be one or two more even ahead of next week as well. The ability to make substitutions in these games, which obviously, ironically, Manchester United themselves couldn't yesterday, is so big. United didn't have the energy to, like kind of really put pressure on us at the end of the game. They didn't have the energy to do it, and it's understandable because they didn't have a bench, or at least the bench Amram didn't feel like he could turn to. And I understand that it was made up of kids and Victor Lindelof. What was it? Chappers on Match of the Day said, didn't it? Said like a school teacher taking the kids on an outing. It was a little bit like that. So I would be avoiding Tottenham players. To be honest, I'd also
United as well.
Be
Avoid
avoiding United for
Everton,
similar reasons.
Ipswich. I mean, they've got good fixtures coming up, haven't they? But like their team, when I looked at their team, I was like, you are going to win. Like I don't think it was not like you're so great that you're going to win. But their
No, no,
team
no, no.
looked
We weren't
awful
great
as
yesterday. I
well.
think United probably
Even
were value
with
for a draw.
Everton, Ipswich, Leicester, the next. Like Everton are at home. I've got Mikalenko. Do you think Mikalenko with Man United at home or Lewis Hall with Nottingham Forest at home, who's more likely to keep a clean sheet? I almost think they're so like inept United in front of goal. I fancy Mikalenko.
I think the stat is they've scored 1 goal in 17 halves, first halves or something.
Yeah.
And that was a
I
penalty.
fancy I'm just thinking, do I want to play Mikalenko or Lewis Hall? I kind of want to play Mikalenko, because I don't think
That's
United Chris Wood will score all the time. And I'm Wood against Hall, I'm going against myself in that fixture. Why not
that's
just
all
go
comps, by
Mikalenko
the
and
way.
go all
But
in?
again, if Garnacho had finished some chances better, they would have scored yesterday.
Yeah, but he's the master of not finishing. Anthony says hello, by the way, scoring week in,
He
week out for
can't
Real
stop scoring for
Betis.
Betis, can he?
Oh, mate,
Mr.
yeah.
Spinner himself. I think
They got
Garnacho is the one to keep an eye on.
not for. He's just going to piss you
Not,
off, man. You went there earlier in the season. I
yeah.
absolutely get his talent, but he's just so frustrating. Is anyone as frustrating? He's just
But
misses chances
the
left, right, and centre.
consequence of this Diallo injury as well, you've got to think the minutes are going to be strong for him now. Because I realise there's a frustration there, and you must remember he's still a young boy as well. But he does get himself into the threatening and dangerous positions, and United just generally don't enough. So to have someone, he was the biggest reason they turned around that FA Cup tie against Leicester, was he started creating a bit of chaos, and I think United need a bit of that offensively. So I think his minutes are good. So like, I'm looking at game week 29, and again, and we might discuss it tomorrow. But if I thought he was going to start at Leicester, that's the sort of one I want on a free hit in 29. But I'm not sure I'd want to buy it at this moment, particularly with Forest, City, Newcastle game weeks 30 to 32 afterwards. But also, as it stands, it's projected that United will double 33. Garnacho, maybe. I have to say, Bruno Fernandes, and I feel this way every single time Manchester United come to Tottenham. Afterwards, I'm always left thinking what a magnificent footballer he is. He always does something in the game. I'm like, I don't know how you saw that. His vision is outrageous, which included that pass for Garnacho. He just makes it look so easy. I'm telling you, most footballers don't make that pass. He's such a brilliant player. I felt sorry for him yesterday having to play central midfield alongside Casemiro. I mean, we exposed that, but I think almost any team would have exposed that yesterday. But in terms of him, the player, and it was interesting when he went over to, I've seen it back on the TV, when he goes over to crowd, he looks like he's one step away from crying, Bruno. Like you can tell he's
He
hurting about
cares.
it.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
doubt about it. He definitely does care. And he takes the captaincy seriously for them. But yeah, not of interest at all, really,
They've
in either
got
of them.
Ipswich and Leicester in 27 and 29, either side of Arsenal. Really, you should want to be looking at that a little bit. It would only be a Garnacho punt. And I just think there's enough other good midfield players. I don't really need to take that punt. That's how I feel about it at the moment. Gary and Paul are going to be on previewing that game. We'll have it out next Tuesday ahead of the game with 27 deadline.
Nice. Good. Okie dokie. James, do you want to give the listeners a rundown of what they got to look forward to for the rest of the week? And then we'll answer a couple of questions and wrap up.
Yeah, so schedule does look a little bit different this week. As said, me and Suj are going to do game week 29 versus game week 34, free hit revisited on tomorrow's People's Poll podcast. Ask James is going to be Wednesday. That's scheduled for 11 a.m. UK time. It's because Clayton's unavailable Wednesday, so we're going to do the Clayton and James show Thursday, which actually works quite nicely because we can talk about City and Madrid and Villa Liverpool on that podcast on Thursday as well. And therefore, Clash of Correspondence is going to be Friday, and we'll have that out early Friday, as I'm aware it's a Friday deadline. So that's Fulham versus Crystal Palace with Lewis James and Rory McLaughlin Dowd. If you want to support the show, it's www.patreon.com/Planet FPL, a week full of podcasts and the usual increased video content at advanced tier as well. And remember, you can have no ads on your audio and your video from basic tier.
Indeed, you can, as well as all the other stuff that you get being a Patreon member, part of the community on Slack, prize leagues, and a whole bunch of other stuff as well. Why not head over there and check it out? Should we do a couple of questions, James, that we've had? Have you had any on Blue Sky?
I haven't looked, but I will do while you start talking.
Okay. FPL Invincible, how many points did Liverpool get from their next 3 games? What's your thoughts? 9?
Are we including Villa in this? For clarity,
well, it was asked yesterday.
Yeah, it's got to be Villa, City, Newcastle, wasn't it? What difference
7.
would it
I'm
made?
going to go 7. It's 7 or 9.
I think if Liverpool gets 7 from the 3 games, I think that's probably curtains, isn't it? Yeah. I think the 2 away games feel absolutely huge for them. I think the Newcastle game is probably better for them than it looks. I think Newcastle will have half a mind on the fact they're playing the same team in the Carabao Cup final. I think there just will be a psychological to that. And I don't think it will be, let's stamp our authority on Liverpool massively. I think it will be, let's play a very different way to how we intend to play in the Carabao Cup final. So it might even be they go with a tactic that they don't deem is the best tactic to play against Liverpool. I would not be, Eddie Howe does things like that. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I think they'll slip up in at least one of the away games. They're
slip up means
yesterday.
A draw or means lose.
I'm going to go for 5 points. I think they might draw both away games.
I'm going 7. Question from Tingu. I feel for him or her. I have Ahmad, Vandenberg, and Jackson playing in game week 29. Not anymore. Now they're all injured. I am 3 more players short in game week 29 as a result. Is free hit 29 more viable for me? Well, we're going to talk about it more in detail tomorrow. But that's a rotten bit of luck, isn't it, to end up with that many injuries? And remember, there's still 3 more game weeks before game week 29. Guaranteed there's going to be more injuries during that period as well.
Yeah, I'm heard something. We're covering this tomorrow, aren't we?
Just tune in tomorrow and we'll get into it more. A lot of people asking about assistant manager for game week, this game week coming. Is there anyone that you take a hit for, James? Is one of the questions.
Oof. I presume you're on Slot or Emery. Or there will be a number that have left it on Moyes.
Stuck it on Moyes. Yeah.
And to be honest, you've got the best results so far, near enough, haven't you?
Yeah.
No, probably not. This was always this week was always my concern with using it in 24. Was it could have landed great. We mentioned particularly hit the Eddie Howe, but it's not going to happen. I think it was always a concern that you'd end up looking at this, want to chase a bonus, and reality is probably the 2 best choices are Leicester or Ipswich.
There are five managers with ownership as it stands, James. Slots on 40.7% ownership. Emery 24.1. Moyes 13.4. Iraola on 7.1. And then Arteta's got 5.1. And then after that, it's all bits
I
and
think
bobs.
if you're going for a team that you're not going for the bonus and you're just going for the points, as long as you can afford to go there, I think surely that's Arteta this week.
Arteta for me as well.
Yeah.
Indeed. Good. What have you got on Blue Sky, James, before we wrap this episode?
It's probably just an additional one. People asking about game week 27 as well, in terms of the assistant manager chip. So again, I mentioned earlier Wolves against Fulham at Molineux. It's not a slight on Fulham, it's just a home game at Molineux, and I think they're better than their league position. Is potentially one you might have subject to the table. Palace at home to Villa. I think if that lands, that could be appealing, particularly with Villa. Obviously, Villa have Palace on the Tuesday night after going to Fulham on the Saturday. Sorry, wrong way around. They've got Chelsea on the Saturday, then they go to Palace on the Tuesday, and then they've got Cardiff Friday night in the FA Cup, and then Champions League, obviously, the following midweek. So I don't know if there might be a bit of distractions there. I think Villa, we've seen suffer on the short turnarounds this season. So it's Chelsea Saturday, Palace Tuesday. So if that landed as a bonus, I think Glasner at home to Villa would maybe be pretty good in 27. You might get a bonus out of Brighton at home to Bournemouth, but Bournemouth don't feel like the right team to be attacking from that perspective. And then, to be honest, unfortunately, in terms of the teams that you'd be looking at for the more guaranteed victory, you're looking at Chelsea. You're looking at Maresca at home to Southampton, because you do want to target the promoted teams from that perspective. So your alternatives are Manchester United or West Ham, and I think your trust is probably not there in those. You're not going to pick Potter over Maresca under that circumstance, are you? Don't think that makes sense. You wouldn't want to go hammer him. So I think it would be Maresca, or I think then it's Pereira or Glasner, or one of them two if you're chasing the bonus in 27, subject to how it lands.
Cool. Anything else to add, sir?
No, that's it.
Other than that, then make sure you're subscribed wherever you are listening to the podcast. You get notified as soon as anything new does go live. But most importantly, stay safe, look after yourselves. Couple of deadlines within the next week, one on Friday, one on Tuesday. So make sure you're prepped and ready. Stay safe and chat for now.
Thanks, everyone. Be nice to each other. Play it your way. Cue music, please. Man sharp.